Act 1 to 10. This world is and will forever be a tragedy. Demise. Back at the Omega timeline, DeLeos and the rest of Alphatale were exploring everything as they had never seen anything like this place before. As they wandered throughout the entire place following Core Frisk the whole time. Alrighty, this here is the town of the Lost. This place is known as being a home of many lost souls and even to those who chose to be lost as well. This is a home for anyone and everyone. Core Frisk smiled as Muffet looked around, seeing all the others, with Lucy keeping an eye out for any threats as they wondered, and DeLeos holding Astral on his back as they kept walking. So this some kind of paradise or something? DeLeos asked. Not really. But this place has the wonderful property of bringing into existence an object that embodies your home. Core Frisk answered. Oh, does that mean we'll get big-boobed MILFs? The Astral Mother asked, still hazy. Many Gasters looked towards her, with many of them even growing a connection to her with just her looks alone. Suddenly, while they all walked, a large beam of light shot down in front of them, with all of them but DeLeos, who only closed one eye, covering their eyes. Arga! What is that? Are we being attacked? Shouted Muffet, to which once the light and dust cleared they all looked to see it was a porta-potty. Everyone looked in confusion and dumbfounded as they had no idea what this meant. Core Frisk looked at it a bit concerned as they walked towards it and looked around at it. Is that our home's representation in this place like you mentioned? Lucy asked, to which DeLeos grabbed Core Frisk. Is this some kind of joke? What the hell is a damn toilet doing here? DeLeos grunted, causing Core Frisk to sweat a bit. And not to worry. I'm sure it was a mistake. Core Frisk said in a worried tone. Put the kid down, skeleton, said a commanding voice behind them. DeLeos and the others looked back to see none other than the Gaster of Epictale in his transformed state. Perfect Gaster, standing before them with the rest of Epictale alongside him, along with Delta and Color. Do I know you? Remarked DeLeos whilst analyzing Perfect Gaster. I'm Perfect Gaster, the pleasure is yours. Perfect Gaster answered. There doesn't seem to be anything perfect about you. And what's with the floating hat? You some kind of magician? DeLeos said, with Perfect Gaster chuckling a bit. Hey, sure. Would you like for me to make you disappear? Perfect Gaster asked. Well, you're more than welcome to try. DeLeos said as him and Perfect Gaster shared a hateful look when suddenly, fresh poof! Shouted a voice as strange rainbow smoke appeared in between them all, with a weirdly looking sands appearing from it. What's up, broskies? It's me, the boy Fresh. Fresh said with a wide smile, only then for another giant cloud of smoke to burst out, this one being red and black. Rock to cure poof. What's up, chumps? Shouted another skeleton with shades, one that spelled out rock, wearing leather and dark clothing. Name's Rock. Rocky is also acceptable, and y'all seem to be in my way. Rock said whilst making a rock pose with Fresh and everyone looking at him in confusion. Mumbled Delta. What's wrong? Said Color. I can sense someone appeared in the Omega timeline. I'll go check it out, you guys stay here, said Delta as he opened a portal to the location of the magic signature he felt. However, at King Multiverse's throne, a portal would open up, showing on the other side a library with Alpha Frisk stepping out of it, his body wounded and injured, with him having grown a full beard and his familiar white jacket being destroyed. I am back? I can sense it. The souls, everything. How long has it been? Frisk said to himself. Hey bud, you alright? Said a voice behind him. Frisk turned around to see Delta Sands standing nearby. Shocked, Frisk then ran over at intense speed and picked up Delta by his shirt. What is this? Where am I? Frisk shouted, with Delta in a state of shock. Ay. Calm down. If you want me to tell you, said Delta whilst holding Frisk's arms. Put him down, said another voice behind Frisk, to which when he turned around saw Error behind him. Frisk turned around to him and stared for a long period that felt like it could be forever. Error eventually looked away for a moment. God, this guy is a creep, Error said to himself as he then looked back up to see Frisk still staring at him. Where is Ares? Asked Frisk in a serious tone. I need him to settle our score long ago. Talk, black man. Unless you want to die. Frisk threatened, to which Error stared for a moment before bursting into hysterical laughter, while Frisk looked at him confused and offended, at first thinking it was his newly grown majestic beard, but then realized that this fool reminded him of William all those years back. You look and sound just like him, Frisk said. To what? Error asked. Just like William. Frisk answered. William? How does he know that name? Wait, could he really be from Dash? Error thought to himself, shocked, as he then watched as Frisk began to walk down the stairs towards him. William, huh? Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Pity you'll never get a chance to meet him again, or Ares too. Error said as he got ready to fight. Your wit, your demeanor, and everything about you screams him. No doubt you've been around that fool. Doesn't matter now, though. It's time I did what I've always done and got rid of you worthless trash bags. Frisk said as he unsheathed his determination blade, with Error looking at it and then at him. You compare me to him, yet you know nothing of me. Error shouted. I know enough, all I need to do is look at you. Frisk said as he then sprinted towards Error, only to stop in his tracks, realizing he was being stopped by strings. Frisk then looked to Error, who was smiling at him. As much as I'd like to go all over the place and fight you off with whatever powers you may or may not have, I need to go find my mentor. Error said as he then teleported him and Frisk away to the Omega timeline, where they then saw them, Deleos and Perfect Gaster, staring each other down, getting ready to brawl, with everyone else all looking in shock, taking bets, and some even looking in fear at what could come of it. Eric, where the hell did you take me? Frisk shouted. While the old man kept his word, these coordinates. I finally found it. All these people from a use, all this pathetic garbage. All these dirty little dash. Error then stopped himself as his mind then wandered back to the issue of 404, and then dropped Frisk. Frisk looked up towards Error, his face twisted in anger, until he then saw familiar faces in the distance. The long and determined look of Deleos, the strong posture of Lucy, the many arms of Muffet, and the lovely pink hair of Astral and Aurora. Frisk's face went from confusion-filled to landing on a heartwarming sorrow as he got up and started to sprint towards everyone, with tears filling his eyes and vision. Guys! It's me! Gaius! Frisk screamed at the top of his lungs. Aurora's heart almost fell out of her chest as she looked at Frisk, with tears beginning to fill her eyes as she sprinted towards Frisk, as Lucy noticed, and growing a wide smile as she too ran towards Frisk, the three of them all slamming into one another, hugging and embracing each other in a warmth they all thought they had lost. Muffet looked off uninterested, while in the distance Anti-Flowy was watching, and then spotted 404's dog Error standing afar watching everything. Error looked on as he thought of his home a long time ago. But then those thoughts were filled with ones he had made 404 instead, as a slight smirk crossed his mouth. Stupid old man, guess he did it after all. But how? Error asked himself. It wasn't that fool, said a voice near Error. He looked around for a moment before seeing Anti-Flowy near his feet. What do you want, Weed? Error asked. Your master didn't do this, it was that king moron you all put too much faith in. Anti-Flowy answered. King? Hee, you stupid idiot, you really did something useful for once, huh? Error said as he then crouched to Anti-Flowy, who backed away a bit. I'll forget I saw you if you help me find him and my master, Weed. Error asked as Anti-Flowy rolled his eyes and then covered Error in vines, getting ready to take him away. But before they left, Error took one last look at all of Alphatale, or what was left of it. Will he leave with them here? Why do I even care about these fools? Error thought to himself as he and Anti-Flowy then sank into the ground and appeared in the anti-void in search of King Multiverse. Back at the opening to the secret mainframe laboratory, Spamton was laid out in the anti-void, unconcise from the fight previously, as Quenya had just sent him flying out of the facility. King Multiverse looked in shock at the scene as Quenya stood there victorious, with Jevil not too far ahead of them, still standing. Well, that was a shocker. Still won't save your cute little blue fishy cheeks though. Jevil snickered. We'll see about that, Quenya said as she then dashed over to King Multiverse and picked him up with the Roki, and they both then jumped out of the hole in the ceiling with Jevil following after them. They all then landed inside the anti-void. Good lord. Dimensional hoping doesn't do well with my innards at all, Roki said, shaking. Agreed, King Multiverse said. Quick, Roki. Go and tell the others where we are. I have a feeling this is gonna get messy really quickly, Quenya said as King Multiverse then dropped the Roki and watched them teleport away after turning into black goo, and then zipping towards anything resembling Alphatale code. Now then, you too, shouted Jevil, getting King Multiverse's and Quenya's attention. You've had your fun with the stupid salesman, now it's my turn to bring you some pain, riddles and puzzles as well. But mostly chaos. Ha 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 ha. Jevil laughed as Quenya and King Multiverse got ready to battle. Jevil turned into confetti and went towards Quenya, who used her spear to stab into the ground, creating a shockwave and sending them back. Jevil then reformed from them with a large grin. Hee hee, nice one, but were you expecting this one? Jevil laughed as he then zipped away with Quenya looking around to search for him, until she then heard giggling and saw she was holding Jevil instead of her spear. Gotcha! Jevil shouted as he then headbutted Quenya, and then kicked her high into the sky, where turned his arm into a fishing rod, and used the hawk to grab and then slammed Quenya into the ground so hard that it caused a massive shockwave that spread throughout the area. Quenya coughed up blood as she stood on the ground motionless for a moment before getting up and staring at Jevil, who was positioned in front of Spamton, who then began to get up. Wowza! That was one hell of a deal, Spamton said as he chuckled, only to then look off in one direction with a serious look, with Jevil chuckling until he noticed Spamton's face. The hell is wrong with you, salesman? Jevil said as he nudged Spamton. It's here, Spamton said as he then zipped away, disappearing entirely from this existence. This shocked not only Quenya but Jevil as well, as he looked in a direction not being able to sense anything. You dare leave me? Shouted Jevil as he, although reluctantly, also disappeared as well. Quenya looked at this with a bit of confusion, as King Multiverse did too, before they both looked at one another. However, right after they did, a giant black arachnid spider phased into their dimension and stood there for a moment, scaring the two half to death. The spider looked at them and then disappeared again. That spider, Quenya said. What? King Multiverse asked. Nothing, we should try and find the others as soon as possible, Quenya said as she then picked up King Multiverse like a child and looked around. Would you stop doing that? King Multiverse said in an aggressive tone. Where do most AUs here go after destruction? Quenya said. Well, they wait. How do you know about AUs and all that already? King Multiverse asked. I guess he just do. Maybe it has something to do with this armor I have, which is starting to feel like I'm wearing the sun right now, and it's quite hot. And it's starting to actually burn, Quenya said as she took a knee in pain, dropping King Multiverse. He looked as she fell on her limbs and began to cough and drip with sweat, her armor generating more and more energy, heating Quenya more. Is there anything I can do? King Multiverse said with haste and worry. I don't think so. I think this might be the end, Quenya said as she began to feel weaker. Come on. You're an Undyne, right? Which means you must have determination running through those veins. Get up. You have the will of everyone resting on you right now. You can't die here. Not now, King Multiverse shouted. He had never put his faith in anyone before, but he felt that this woman just might have the will he was looking for to take down the being that Roki brought up before. Tenno Kami. He thought about that name. It rang through his head like a bell. What the hell is an Undyne? But about that determination part you mentioned, Quenya said as she then took a deep breath and used her determination inside her to stabilize her body and cool herself off, before then proceeded to rise, standing firm and tall. Thanks for the pep talk, I really needed that. Say, what's your name? Quenya asked. King Multiverse. King Multiverse answered. Cam it is. She smiled, with King Multiverse sighing as she then grabbed his hand and continued to look around again. Now my question from before, Quenya said. Yeah, the Omega timeline, but that's in a whole other part of the multiverse within that direction, said King Multiverse as he pointed to his side. But it would take you forever to reach that dash. But before King Multiverse could even finish, Quenya leaped through the multiverse in a matter of seconds and landed in the Omega timeline, with King Multiverse and everyone looking in her direction in complete shock. What the actual foo dash? But before he could say anything, King Multiverse saw the rest of Alpha Tail looking towards them. Black man, Delios shouted. That is not my name. King Multiverse grunted, just as he did Aurora, Frisk, and the others besides Delios and Astral, who was plucking grass, ran over to hug Quenya, who embraced them as well. Acts 10-20. We move so fast in this world that we tend to forget how to go slow and just take in this world's beauty, if there is any to be had. 404 thought to himself as he was falling from the sky towards the ground, his eyes focused on the stars of the night sky. It wouldn't be a few moments after that he began to hear himself renter the atmosphere, as he then turned around and looked down to see 100 and Alpha fighting one another, Alpha used his ability to become tangible and intangible to his advantage, as each time 100 tried to hit him, Alpha would go through attacks like he was water vapors, and would deal a devastating blow to the gut of 100, who coughed up a bit of blood as Alpha then sent him flying backwards with another punch. 404 then landed not too far behind Alpha, who noticed him. "Any ideas, demon?" Alpha asked. "Nothing. He's too strong, I don't think he can even be beaten," 404 said, exhausted, as he got on his knees. Back up towards the barrier. Infected jumped in front of Omni, who had previously decided to handle Warlock, the giant grotesque creature ahead of them, and responsible for keeping the barrier up. "I told you I had this covered," Omni stated. "Oh my god, you're a real stickler for the I called on it rule. Stupid bitch-ass hero type. Why don't you keep yourself and that ugly fashion sense of yours away from me and my quarry?" Infected grinned as he flew towards the giant creature and stood on his wisp cloud in front of it. The large creature looked down at them before eyeing Infected with a wide and dumb smile, almost dismissive of what they were talking about. "TCH, you're only going to get yourself killed," Omni said. Infected just smiled. "Did you forget that we need you all here?" Loading shouted at them as they all looked up. "Don't worry there, weird black man. Our caped fashion disaster here was gonna help you anyway. Weren't you the hero?" "He-ya-ha-ha-ha." Infected laughed as he jumped onto the belly of the large creature. "So, you ready to die, creature?" Infected asked as he then jumped back onto his wisp cloud and backed away, with the large creature continuing to laugh and smile. "Warlock, warlock, warlock," shouted the creature as it fell through the barrier. As it fell, it created a large wormhole in the planet of Reapertail, which 404, Alpha and 100 looked up to see. "What the hell is going on?" 404 shouted. "No doubt your own doing, you damn monster," Alpha shouted, with 404 rolling his eyes as he teleported to the giant wormhole and looked down, only for Infected to fall past him and completely disappear through it. 404 watched as he then saw Omni land on top of a tree nearby. "Gonna guess you aren't going with him," 404 said. "He requested his funeral, so I didn't interfere," Omni said, crossing his arms, only for the whole planet to shake as 100 screamed out with a near-deafening scream. Omni, Alpha and 404 all looked at 100 as he continued to rage and destroy everything around him. "He could destroy the multiverse with that power," Alpha exclaimed, only for 404 to roll his eyes. "Not possible. He's too much of a brute to properly be able to use his power to destroy 11 entire dimensions of space," 404 said with annoyance in his voice. "Don't be idiotic. I know you felt his blows too. All he has in him is pure power that he is not afraid to use destructively. I also got a taste of his determination. It's unreal the amount he has. Not only that, but it's so massive that he might just possess more power than that little mainframe of yours if we don't stop him," Alpha shouted as 404 looked at him with a blank expression, only for that moment to pass. 100 then began to charge a large blast from his mouth that got hotter and hotter and even hotter, until, boom! All of them watched as the large sphere of destruction went bursting through the barrier that had kept them inside the current universe, and watched as it destroyed nearly half the cosmos behind them, and around them, nearly erasing all universes surrounding them. Alpha and 404 looked up in complete disbelief at the astronomical destruction they had just witnessed, only for 100 to fire another one directly at them, with 404 using his blue mastery to hold it. The blast broke free after a short struggle, however, quicker than their eyes could see. Omni rushed in front of them and punched the orb high into the sky, where it then proceeded to detonate, destroying the rest of the cosmos, leaving their universe to be the only one left unharmed. "Holy shrimp! How the hell did you just do that?" Alpha said as he then noticed lightning going around Omni, only for it to fade away. "Impressive. That nearly took all I had to deflect. That power reminds of..." Omni stopped what he was saying as he thought back to his previous fight with 404 years back when malware had possessed him. "No, this is much more different," Omni thought to himself. "Careful, Ares, this guy would give most beings a run for their money with power like that. It's pure chaos. Whatever source he retrieves his power from must be one that has no end to it, because he's getting stronger by the second," Islathorn said to Omni. "Or his power is just that vast. Either way, I need to stop this creature, but not alone," Omni said to himself as he then looked back at 404 and Alpha, deciding between the two. He then pointed his finger at Alpha. Huh. Alpha said. You'll aid me in this fight. I sense greater strength in you. Omni said, to which Alpha then smirked and chuckled as he looked to 404, who looked to him annoyed. You, William, go help that moron so that we don't all die to the other monster. He'll need your help more than us. I would have picked you, but strength can be enough for this raging beast. Omni said. Since when did I take orders from you, Caped Crusader? 404 asked. You'll listen unless you want this reality to be destroyed, Omni said, looking back at him. 404 hesitated for a few moments before then jumping through the wormhole. Alpha walked beside Omni as they watched 100's bones and eyes grow hotter, and his bones more red as his power continued to grow. What chaotic power! I can only imagine if that awful 404 ever managed to harness this, Alpha said as he gripped his determination blade. Then let's be sure to put him down for good then, Omni said as him and Alpha prepared to face off against 100. So, Caped Wonder, if you don't mind me asking, what exactly do we do about that guy? Not judging your capabilities, but I'm failing to see how we come out on top of this, Alpha said as he watched 100 continue to growl and wail in complete and utter wrath. I don't think we can beat him, but perhaps with enough strategy, we can overcome his anger and his power. However, one wrong move and we risk death, Omni said as he then charged up his power to as far as he could go. Islathorn, give me as much power as you can, Omni grunted as his body began to become covered from head to toe in electricity, with Alpha looking in shock at the transformation, watching as Omni began to grunt and yell as lighting filled his body in essence. There it is, 45%. I know you're strong, but if that fight with your brother before showed me anything, it's that you're still a mortal that can take only so much. Be careful, Ares, Islathorn said as Omni looked forward with a straight face as his hands and legs shook immensely with Alpha taking notice of it. But he looked forward once again to now see 100 sprinting right towards them. Back at the anti-void, Faker landed and awaited patiently as he looked over to see a battered D+ who was utterly exhausted and heavily wounded. Very impressive, you did better than that rotten computer did against me, though you have yet to have me to start trying. Faker chuckled only for a twitch to go over his face as he then sensed 404's power in the distance. D+ would then fire hundreds of blasters at Faker. The blasters all fired with enough force to push Faker back a few feet, but Faker simply just walked through the smoke without receiving any damage, and the blasters were destroyed by Faker's intense stare. Faker then noticed 404's power even clearer than before. Finally, whatever force was keeping me from sensing my vessel is now gone, Faker said as he turned over toward 404's direction with D+ noticing. Hey, we're not finished yet. I can still fight, D+ screamed. Faker stopped moving and looked back at him. I'll be back, you better hope you get more determined otherwise. Well, I'll let you fill in the blanks, Faker grumbled as it then faded away into shadows with a few glitches and words being left behind. D+ watched in shock as the glitches left behind began to tear apart the anti-void itself, leaving a giant rift inside it, and now linking it with another world as he then saw inside the rift another version of Error standing with Ink and 3 other skeletons. What the hell is happening? D+ said in shock and terror as he looked on. However, back at Reapertail, 404 was descending through the wormhole only to then have a shadow fall over him. He looked up, only to see Faker now falling directly behind him with his mouth wide open and ready to engulf 404. What the dash? 404 shouted in complete horror as he had no idea what he was looking at, but just before Faker could grab him, a strange wall of flesh then separated them as 404 continued his descent. He looked down as 404 passed through every dimension and every reality until he then came out the other side to find himself at the bottom of his reality, where he could see every dimension, every reality and all things beyond and in between. Holy shit! 404 said as he then stood on what looked to be a clear invisible floor that showed the outside of reality, which 404 he couldn't see due to his mind not being able to comprehend anything beyond this yet. Holy shit! Is this everything? 404 then was interrupted as the giant creature from before then flopped onto the clear ground, where 404 then saw Infected fly down on his wisp cloud. Infected looked up. He then saw all the inner workings of the realities had been visually turned into kid toys and child dickies with small they looked now. Whoa, that's bizarre to look at. Infected said when suddenly a voice inside his head that he wasn't familiar with began to speak. This entity is affecting everything in this side of creation. Be sure to destroy it quickly, said the dormant conduit of destruction. Infected looked at his chest as he noticed a dark glow before it disappeared. Whoa, new voices. Thought I was done with those. Infected said as he then looked over towards the giant creature just to see it sit up and smile at him. Warlock! It shouted happily. Back in Reapertail, Alpha and Omni flew through the air as 100 jumped for them, catching Omni in his grip only to have Alpha appear next to him and cut off 100's hand, only for 100 then to punch Alpha back down to earth with a heavy attack after then regenerating his hand. Omni then took this opening to go in for a strong attack, charging himself to 60% immediately. Omnilock Destroyer! Omni shouted as his attack sent 100 flying. He then remembered Alpha being present and halted the attack before it could destroy anything major. However, 100 was sent skyrocketing through the outer reaches of space, screaming in anger as he disappeared into the pitch darkness. Alpha watched as the attack sent 100 flying with Omni, then turning back to normal in an instant as he didn't want to risk melting away whatever was left of him from last time. Good job, that was one hell of a hit, Alpha exclaimed. I don't think I killed him though, Omni said with slight worry, only for 100 to appear behind Omni almost instantly. How did he? Omni then went 100% for a brief second, dodging 100's punch and then punching 100 with a large impactful punch. However, the strain was too much and instead of hitting him at 100% only was able to hit him at 20%, not even sending 100 back a few feet but just mere inches. Omni's arm melted completely off his body with Alpha looing in complete shock and surprise. Damn it, perhaps I underestimated this monster. Omni grunted as 100 grabbed him by the neck and slammed him into the planet so hard the mere force of impact sent the core of the planet jetting out the other side. 100 then continued to punch Omni more and more, blow for blow as each punch shook Omni's entire body. 100 continued to growl and shout as he pounded Omni into the ground deeper and deeper, only for Alpha then fire a blast of kindness at 100, who stopped everything and looked over at him. Alpha stood there confidently as 100 picked up Omni and threw him to the side as he walked over to Alpha and stood over him as he then raised his fist high into the air ready to punch Alpha into oblivion. However, he looked down to see Alpha looking back up at him with little fear or concern, which pissed 100 off even more as his anger continued to boil over. Come on, is that all you got, you big brute? Alpha said as 100 roared and punched Alpha in the face. However, his punch went right through him. 100 looked at Alpha bit confused. Taking the opportunity, Alpha then transformed into Corrupted Judge and summoned his hate bait. If DT won't kill you, then maybe hate will, Alpha shouted as he stabbed 100 in the head, paralyzing him. Now, Alpha shouted as Omni then got up and charged up to 40%, his body beginning to melt away. This needs to end this fight once and for all, Omni shouted as he summoned a large lightning bolt. He then remembered Alpha was right near 100 too. Alpha nodded his head for confirmation, and with that Omni charged up attack to 100%. Let's end this, Zeus Thunderbolt, Omni screamed as he flew hundreds of miles into the sky and threw the lightning bolt down, and just as it was about to hit Alpha, Alpha then used his teleportation to transport him and 100 along with Omni's attack to a completely different multiverse. Arag! 100 roared as Alpha also then detonated his hate blade, releasing all the dormant negative energy inside it. Hate grenade! Alpha screamed as not only did a distant multiverse get destroyed, but hundreds along with it within the direction. The attacks were launched in, with Alpha getting caught in the explosion, whilst Omni teleported back to Reapertail quickly. Finally, Omni said as he began to deteriorate and melt away. He looked around a while before he then closed his eyes and accepted his fate. However, back in the anti-void, a new threat emerged from the large rift, another figure that threatens our hero's freedom. Back with Alpha. He was in a whole new place with 100 in front of him, heavily damaged. TCH, you're still up. Fine. I don't even need anyone. In fact, fuck anyone else. I will kill you myself, said Alpha as more and more dark liquid would come from his eyes as he then formed a sword out of hate. 100 did not roar or do anything. He wasn't even aggressive, in fact. He was as still as a statue. Huh. I feel no anger coming from you anymore. Strange, but this is my chance. said Alpha as he then attempted to steal 100's determination only for his hand to stop in motion as he then felt a sharp feeling in his arm. Ah! W with the dash, exclaimed Alpha as he could no longer control his arm. That's when he would feel a very sharp pain in his head. Gah! Shouted Alpha as he could feel his mind getting disconnected from his body, as he screamed in pain, until he was nothing but a hollowed corpse. A long figure with tentacles for legs, pale skin, black empty eyes and gray hair walked up to him and shrank down to his level. Welcome back, Adam, said the figure as they formed themselves arms and put their hand on top of Alpha's head. Now then, I have control over both of you. You will do as I tell you. You Samson, you have a lot of potential to grow strong enough to my needs. As long as I can control you, nothing bad can happen. But for me to be 100% sure you are not to be defeated, I will grant you greater power than you already have. I've gathered enough souls to accomplish that for you. Here you go, said the figure as it then clicked its fingers, with dozens upon dozens of determination souls appeared, as they all fused with 100 and increased his determination to an abnormal degree, with 100's eyes now glowing a brighter red than before with his hand twitching. The figure commanded 100 to go up above Reality 6, and had him waiting there whilst Alpha was still in the same place. He will be used a plan B in case anything goes wrong. As for you, Adam, how much harder your life has become, hasn't it? Worry not though, 10 can free you from this cruel life. You just have to do as I tell you. 10 laughed in a soft and calming voice. Act 20 to 30. Far in the Omega timeline, Epic Tail and Alpha Tail were standing off aside from one another, except for the still dazed Astral who were chilling under a tree near their respective families. Oh dear, what on earth will it take for these fools to realize that this isn't the way things should be going? Epictorial said as she then looked down and saw Astral playing with her stomach. Poor child, your soul, I can feel it. Your pain and anger, sickness and especially fear are all present here and seen in this state of mind of yours. Epictorial said. What? That's bogus. I'm entirely one with my emotions, said the dazed Astral as she began to eat some grass and kick it. Epictorial shook her head as she then heard a large boom. Looking over to see Delios had punched Perfect Gaster, surprising everyone. Delios, what are you doing? Aurora shouted as she grabbed him only for him to jerk his arm away from her. Don't Delios me. This stupid top hat wearing piece of shit is the one who asked for. Literally. Delios shouted as he then summoned his hammers and slammed them next to Perfect Gaster, who just stared at him with a smug face and eyes signifying what would be a smile. Well, if that's how you want to play things, we can do that. Perfect Gaster smirked as he then powered up and let his magic become more clear. Neutral Frisk stared at Alpha Frisk with an emotionless face and Alpha Frisk looked back. The hell you looking at? Holy shit, that's fucking exotic dash. Infected laughed only to get shot by a 50 calories bullet bigger than the sun that detonated with enough force to destroy multiple hyperverses. 404 looked on in shock at the giant explosion, only to have Infected go flying past him at immense speed. Whoa, okay then. 404 said as he turned to Warlock, only to see Warlock with a serious expression. One painted with hate and resentment. Warlock then got its gun and fired a supermassive black hole directly at 404 that reached 404, before he could perceive its movement, and swallowed him into its singularity. Wow. Oh wait. This isn't all that bad. This feels like a regular supermassive black hole, strong gravitational pull, no light escaping, no direction, but wouldn't be enough to even destroy an AU. Huh. Well, that just makes it easier for me, said 404 as he then powered up and sped out of the singularity of the black hole, and then turned around to use his blue mastery to collapse the black hole without much effort. Much to Warlock's surprise. He impressed? Well, that's not all, you fat tub of lard. 404 said as he then used blue mastery to lift up Warlock and slam him to the ground, shaking the ground beneath them. Warlock squirmed around before curling itself into a ball and rolling towards 404. 404 teleported out of the way only for Warlock to be rolling behind him again. 404 teleported into the air only to have Warlock appear yet again behind him, rolling still. What the hell? 404 said as he flew away only for Warlock to yet again appear behind him and slam into 404 with enough force to decimate several hyperverses. Oh shit. shouted 404 as he put his hands forward to try and block against the attack with his hands beginning to get fried up. Just as it was about to kill 404 for good, the entire blast was then pulled away by an unknown force only for Warlock and 404 to look over and see Infected holding it in his hand, and then ate it with his eyes glowing a deep purple afterwards. Yummy yummy good for the tummy hee stupid bitch. Infected chuckled before belching out the explosion right back towards Warlock, sending the large blob flying backwards. Whoa. That was insane. How the hell did an imbecile like him get his hands on that kind of power? 404 thought to himself. Must be some sort of dormant power, similar to what you have. Malware answered as 404 flew straight up into the air and kept watching Infected. Infected then ripped out a white soul-like object. He then grabbed one of his wisp and combined it with the white object, turning it from purple to a bright orange. Destruction bomb. Infected screamed as he threw the wisp towards Warlock in the distance. The detonation of the explosion was ginormous and nearly enveloped the entire area with its light. Hell yeah. This thing works like a charm. Infected smirked as he watched 404 fly down. All right, my turn. 404 said, only to then have half his face covered in black goo. I don't think so. It's my turn. Malware laughed as he took over 404's body once again, turning into just 404. Gah! Shouted 404, having been completely caught off guard. His body began to change shape and color until... Yes. I waited for an opportunity to pull that off. Just 404 chuckled. Damn you. You rotten parasite. First chance I get, you're getting erased. 404 threatened as he was stuck inside Malware's head. Good luck with that. Just 404 said as he stared down a pissed-off Warlock. Infected then looked on in shock at 404's transformation into a darker form. Hee now you damn anomaly. I'll show you the power to send God to hell. Just 404 chuckled towards Warlock, who began to jump up and down on its stomach in anger as Warlock's sweat began to create small abominations and monsters. Just 404 ran towards Warlock, only to get tackled by the abominations from behind. Just 404 struggled as the abominations began punching and clawing at just 404. Son of bitch. What are these things made of? Just 404 shouted, only to then see a bright light appear behind him from Warlock's belly. Warlock screamed as a giant ball of light engulfed everyone in the area. When the smoke cleared, "Rahahai!" shouted just 404 after bursting out of the smoke created by the beam. You want to play like that? We can play like that, shouted just 404 as he then powered up higher, higher and even higher. Malware gave all the power he had to 404's vessel, and then charged at Warlock, who charged just 404 as well. The two clashed with each other as each threw out punches and kicks, with the other blocking and countering the other's attacks. Warlock attempted to punch with just 404 jumping over him and kicking him in the back of his head, which sent Warlock flying a few feet forward before he then came in a halt, and then shot just 404 with his hand that was pointed at him, as if it was a gun. Just 404 then reflected it by swiping his hand, creating a force field in front of him that redirected the attack towards Warlock, who got hit. Ha! Gotcha bitch! Exclaimed just 404. Warlock then blitzed through the smoke and grabbed just 404 by the face as he then dragged him across the floor. Just 404 responded by kicking Warlock in the face, which staggered Warlock momentarily. Just 404 then backflipped from the ground and into the air as he then used his god eyes to send Warlock flying backwards. Just 404 then teleported behind Warlock and attempted to kick him, only for Warlock to jump over him and grab him once again, throwing him in the opposite direction and then spawning in his actual gun, throwing a black hole in his direction, hitting him full contact. Gah. This is not the same black hole as he used before, said just 404, struggling to move within the black hole. Warlock then shot multiple energy beams from gun, all hitting just 404 as he screamed in pain. Warlow dash before Warlock could finish. It was cut off by a thunderous kick to the head. Warlock looked up to see Infected with his purple aura still surrounding him, and his chest giving off a bright purple glow. Come on. You really think I'd get left out? I'm resuming the chaos, shouted Infected as he charged at Warlock, his aura glowing brighter and stronger than ever before. Infected proceeded to punch Warlock, who blocked his attack. Infected then went into hand-to-hand combat, his combat skills and speed getting sharper and faster with each blow. Warlock attempted to punch Infected back, only for Infected to grab its hand and cast it aside while slapping Warlock. Warlock tried punching with his other hand only for Infected to do the same thing again over and over, making combos on Warlock before then punching it away. Did he really just copy Bruce Lee's combo? Exclaimed 404 whilst watching from the black hole. Grrr. Growled just 404 as he tried to break out of the black hole. Gah. What is this shit made out of? It's like I'm getting crushed by the force of 3 realities colliding into each other. Shouted just 404 in pain. You wanted to be in control, you deal with it. Meanwhile I'll just play me some music. Said 404. What? Asked just 404 in confusion. In the depths of the memories left behind. Even. No. Not that anime shit. Shouted just 404. Why? I thought you didn't mind anime. Said 404. I didn't mind watching the anime itself. Those songs are fucking cringe. I always cover my ears when they're on. At least play some good music. Shouted just 404 as he struggled more to move. He began powering up more and more until he eventually let out all of his cosmic essence into a massive explosion, which collapsed the black hole as he screamed at the top of his lungs. Huff, huff, huff. Oh, I will make you pay for dash. Even now the blue. Stop. Shouted just 404 as he started punching his own head. Yeah, how do you like that, bitch? You don't like it now, do you? Want it to stop? Let me in control with that power boost you have. Said 404. Fine. Said just 404 as Malware then switched control with 404. Much better, now let's get this over with. Said just 404. How did you even play that music? We don't have a music box here. Said Malware. Nunya. Said just 404. Nunya. Asked Malware. Nunya business, you fat tub of lard of a parasite. Responded just 404. Why you dash? Oh shut up, you dirty parasitic demon. How about this? I'll use some moves that go up your alley as long as you stop bothering me. How's that? Said just 404 as he then rushed towards Warlock delivering a thunderous kick to the gut which Warlock managed to block. Infected then came in from behind Warlock and extended his arm out. Suck on this fatty. Shouted Infected as a large purple ball of energy shot out of his hand and into Warlock as it sent him flying away. As Warlock was getting pushed back from the energy ball, he summoned a wormhole behind himself and went through it, before then quickly closing it behind himself as to not let the energy ball follow him. Warlock then got out of the wormhole onto another side of the battlefield and ascended upwards. Warlock! Shouted Warlock as it then raised its arm up and summoned a massive cloud with electricity flowing through it. Warlock went on top of the cloud and stood on it as it started shooting out lightning so fast it could traverse a reality within an instant. Just 404 barely managed to dodge out the way, all while Infected was not having much trouble as he dodged the lightning by allowing his body to fall to the side in a very free manner. The effect of the lightning made the area swirl and twist around like a vortex. What the hell is happening? Said just 404 as he could see everything around changing, as then we were in what appeared to be in a dark wasteland, but still in the same place. Infected then kicked the ground to test out its durability, and only made a small hole. Oh hell yeah! This is the battlefield I'm talking about. Shouted Infected as he then charged at Warlock while still dodging and parrying the lightning from the cloud. The lightning causing abnormal effects to the ground upon impact, such as cracking the ground with the hole looking as if it was a portal to outer space, causes of decay to the black wasteland and many others. Infected reached Warlock and went to punch it which Warlock saw coming and put its arm in front to block the attack, only for Infected to trick it by ducking and kicking Warlock in the stomach, and then hitting him with the palm of his hand in the chest, sending Warlock flying backwards a bit to which Warlock in response threw multiple wormholes at Infected which sucked him, and kept bouncing from one to another. Ah dash. Ah dash. Dash. Infected's scream kept cutting off as he kept getting dragged from wormhole to wormhole. Warlock then got his gun out and started charging an attack until he would then get attacked. Chaotic decay. Said just 404 as he then launched an energy ball at Warlock, sending it flying back and then dispersing into an explosion, causing decay over the wasteland and Warlock's body. Hee hee, how'd like that, parasite? That was one of your moves, said Just 404 with a cocky attitude. Nothing impressive. Keep your eyes on the creature, said Malware. Warlock, said Warlock in a serious tone as he then shook over the decaying effects, as well as stopping the decay entirely. Oh, you are so fucked, Blue Man, shouted Infected in excitement. Warlock charged at Just 404, punching him over and over with Just 404 blocking and parrying the attacks until he could no longer keep up as Warlock got faster and faster as he started to hold back less and less. Just 404 then got punched in the face and grabbed by the arm as Warlock then performed the same combo to Just 404 that Infected did to Warlock and then spawned in its gun to shoot out multiple forks, spoons and knives, all of which penetrated through Just 404's body and knocked him away, sending him into the ground of the wasteland. Well damn. Never knew you could use spoons, knives and forks like that. Even though they aren't your regular forks, spoons and knives, hee hee, remarked Infected as he inserted his foot into Warlock's back, causing him to switch attention. Attention on me, you deformed alien, shouted Just 404 as he then charged in and did a thunderous splitting kick to Warlock's torso, which made Warlock go flying as it then grabbed the ground and dashed at Just 404, who would use his blue mastery to try and slow down Warlock, as well as put up a barrier to protect himself from Warlock's attack if he was going to break free from the blue mastery. Warlock sped through the blue mastery, defying its entire properties, and then smashes into the barrier, breaking it, resulting in punching Just 404 to the ground. Gah! Shouted Just 404. Warlock dash. Warlock was interrupted by a wisp exploding in its face. It managed to dodge the explosion and looked at Infected. My turn now, shouted Infected as he then charged at Warlock with the purple aura around him becoming even brighter than before. Warlock saw the attack coming and put its arm up to block it. As it did, its arm came clean off as Infected punched it, having vastly improved in strength, getting more destructive by the moment. Warlock then regrew his arm and powered up to once again match Infected. They punched each other with such force that they created a shockwave that traveled within the cosmos of the 10 realities and nearly destroyed them. Infected then jumped up and extended his arms upwards and screamed as he then released multiple purple orbs of energy in all directions. Hell yeah! This is what I'm talking about. True destruction and chaos, shouted Infected with a large smile on his face, with Warlock, weirdly enough, also smiling just as widely in response. Those two are way stronger than us now, said Just 404. Great, just stay on the sidelines then dash. Nah, shouted Just 404. What? Responded Malware. Why should I stand on the sidelines? I'm not a coward, said Just 404. Why dash? I want them hands getting thrown down, said Just 404. What? Malware asked in a state of pure perplexation. Staying low? I only stay high, said Just 404. What? Dash. Why should I stand here and just watch him do everything? I want the smoke, shouted Just 404 as he got up dizzily. That punch definitely turned on that god-complex side of you. You know what? Go ahead, try it, said Malware. Just 404 then rushed into Warlock and kicked him away. He then held up his hand as he then adjusted his fingers to form a V shape. Destructive vortex, shouted Just 404 as Warlock got trapped in a metaphysical realm where the area around Warlock would then twirl as all inches of the area started to shoot out beams equal to a god ray. Just 404 then cloned himself and shot even more god rays and blasters to the realm, causing it to be completely destroyed and leaving heavy electricity within the area, blinding Just 404 from seeing Warlock. How do you like that? Said Just 404 as he then got rid of his clones. Damn, that one was awesome, shouted Infected in amazement with his eyes shining with excitement, enjoying every moment of destruction and chaos. Warlock then sprinted out of the remains of the electricity and slammed its hand into Just 404's face, and dragging him across the ground. Warlock then raised Just 404 and then punched him in the face, which caused his skull to fracture. Gah! Shouted Just 404. He then stopped his momentum and teleported away. He started bleeding and slowly healed his face. Infected then appeared beside him. "Hey," said Infected with a creepy smiling face, his voice sounding strangely soothing. "What do you want?" asked Just 404, visibly annoyed at Infected's calmness. "As much as I'm enjoying this experience, I think it's better to wrap this up. You're lucky it suppresses itself depending on the opponent. You would have died within that punch otherwise. Although, this tells me it does not want to truly kill. So here's the plan. I'll charge up one final attack as you distract it. It'll be at your level. With that, I'll have a chance to kill it," said Infected. "And what makes you think I'll work with you on that?" asked Just 404. "Well, you have no choice, since you'll be handling what's coming your way regardless," said Infected as he then pointed with his thumb to his left. Just 404 looked before then getting bashed by Warlock and repetitively punched with Just 404 trying his best to block the punches. Infected then started to power up more and more with his aura covering in a complete purple aura, as he could feel his destructive nature more and more. He then put his hands out and started charging up a massive ball of destructive energy. Just 404 attempted to counter only for Warlock to dodge and knock him on the floor, which Just 404 responded with by holding himself with his hand before making contact with the ground, and then kicked Warlock in the chest, but it had only made Warlock slightly budge. "Warlock!" shouted Warlock as it then powered up, and sent Just 404 flying back with him attempting to back up. Warlock, however, did not allow him to escape and followed him. Both were vanishing in and out of the area with one chasing the other, and the other. Just 404 then used his god eyes which Warlock slapped to the side as it then opened its stomach, and unleashed a massive light which engulfed Just 404 completely. Sure dash. Boom. The smoke cleared with 404 on the floor, completely knocked out and no longer in his Just 404 state. Warlock then went up to him and grabbed him by the neck and looked at him. "Warlock," said Warlock in a disappointed tone as it then threw 404 away. That's when Infected would then appear in front of Warlock with his attack fully charged. "Take this," shouted Infected as he then fired his attack towards Warlock at point-blank range, completely engulfing him, and destroying the whole wasteland with everything going back to a void. "Huff huff, how's that?" Infected started breathing heavily as he then powered down, losing his destructive bright aura. That's when something would drop on his head, knocking him out. A few moments later, 404 found himself back to normal, and Infected had been knocked unconscious from a large anvil falling on his head that floated right beside him, one much heavier than normal. 404 looked around, and saw that Warlock was gone, and that they were in a large black void. What the hell happened?" 404 asked. His voice echoed through the large black void. It would appear that entity somehow managed to distort everything, including the void itself, said a low and hushed voice. 404 turned around to see a floating figure with crow-like mask on, and his clothes looking elegant and well-built. "Wait, this is the void," 404 said, shocked and freaked out with the figure still floating relaxed. "Not the void you've likely been told of. This is the void," said the figure as it then floated a little away. "Well, how do I get back to the multiverse? Or at least mine. My student is there and I need to check up on him. I feel like something terrible is about to happen, and I need to be there ASAP." 404 shouted only for the figure to still ignore him. "Are you even listening to me?" 404 screamed. "Apologies, I require absolute focus. If I drop my focus for a moment then Uvak would return to this world and destroy everything we know to be," said the figure. "I don't care about that. I care about what's going on here and now. Now send me back," 404 demanded as the figure looking towards him. It thought to itself for a moment before then looking away again. "He can't help you, but I can," said another voice behind 404, to which he turned to see a multiple-colored entity floating behind them. "Greetings, I am Prism," Prism said. 404 and Prism looked at one another before 404 asked, "Nice to meet you. You mentioned being able to help me?" 404 said as Prism's hands picked up a piece of the void and began to make origami out of it. The figure in the distance continued to watch the void. Whatever there was to watch. "Who is that guy?" 404 asked. "That's the scribe, current watcher of the void and also the loneliest being to exist," Prism answered. Okay, but how can I get out of here? 404 asked as Infected then began to wake up only to see Prism looking at him, which then caused him to fall asleep again. The scribe looked back at them as Prism then floated towards 404. Would you be able to defeat the invading force? Prism asked. You mean that thing from before? 404 said. That thing is known as Faker, an entity that came from another world and mimicked your shape, said the scribe as it turned towards them. But why? 404 asked. We don't know. Scribe answered. Yet. Prism added. If you want to go back, then that's your choice. Prism said as he floated next to 404, and then teleported them both back to Reaper Tail, where they watched Shadow Omni fighting with Glitch and Negative with Supreme, and D+ smashed into bone pieces and Faker watching from afar. Oh. Well, isn't this a surprise? Faker said as Prism and 404 looked at the large imposing threat. Well, look what we have here. Finally something that can put up a challenge. Faker said. Good, just the person I was hoping to see. Glitch said as Shadow Omni blitzed towards him only for Glitch to catch his fist with both of his. What? Faker said, shocked as Negative then turned his hand into a blade, and with one slice he stabbed Omni in the chest, separating Faker's control. Omni then dropped to the ground unconscious from the stab. Point proven, said Negative. What? No, not when I'm so close, Faker shouted as he then got up. However, just as he was about to take action, something caught his attention. He then looked to 404, and then back in the same direction. Mark my words, for 04, soon this entire world, this narrative, and many others will soon be mine. Faker said as he then grew wings and flew out of the Omniverse, never to be seen again. Guess that's one crisis avoided. 404 said as he then saw Error lying down knocked out. He ran to him. Error! Error! Gino! 404 shouted as Error woke up with a fright. What happened? Oh wait, sir. I've been looking everywhere for you, said Error with his face partially cracked as Glitch and Negative walked near Prism, who was still there watching. With that threat finally gone, the wormhole should be closing soon, Glitch said with a wide smile as Negative simply looked at Prism, who wasn't paying him much attention. Weird-looking skeleton, Negative thought to himself as he and the others then teleported back to the rift in the anti-void, where they saw Loading making conversation with a weird goo-like creature. I get the feeling we're forgetting something, said Glitch. If you forgot, it isn't important, replied Negative. I guess you're right, said Glitch in return. Oh, you're back, Loading said. Loading, said 404. Husk, Negative and Glitch shouted as they both prepared for battle with the husk, not even moving an inch. Whoa, will you two just chill for a moment? Let's not have every moment be filled with pointless combat, 404 said as used Blue Mastery to lift Error up. Sir, it's Alphatail, Error shouted. Alphatail? What's wrong with it? The hell is going on? 404 said. Infected, who was laying down the whole time, opened his eyes at the mention of Alphatail. It's back. The inhabitants of your AU is back, sir. I saw them all at the Omega timeline, Error shouted. Infected and 404's hearts both stopped as they both had their heads filled with millions of thoughts, ideas and things to say. Yo, Infected mumbled to himself as he looked back at 404 and looked at the number 4 on his back. Infected tilted his head as he then moved his thumb over the slant in the number 4, so that it would look like a 1. My goodness, is that you, Will? Infected thought to himself as he watched. His feet then moved towards 404 only to have Negative grab his shoulder. Get your hands off me, you half-baked tampon, Infected said with a horrifying grin, only for Negative to grin back at him. Tell me something, are you strong? Negative asked as Infected clutched Negative's shirt. Wanna find out? Infected smiled. Enough. There's been enough fighting for one day. Negative, let's go, we're leaving, Glitch said as he looked to Husk. Don't think for a second that just cause you're not pulling any of your tricks means we won't hunt you down, Glitch said. Negative and Infected looked at Glitch before letting each other go and give one another a death-like stare. As if I have time for this, Alphatail is back. But how? I killed everyone there. Not to mention I would have known if it was still present. Is this Ten's doing? Infected though as he watched 404 and Error talking more about Alphatale whilst in Negative, Glitch and Husk all began to disappear into the rift. Hey you, Negative said, getting Infected's attention. Next time I'll kill you. Negative stated as the rift then closed, and the three individuals left them with the rift as well. Hey, what were you talking about with that goop thing anyway? Loading 404 asked. Just a few questions about where they come from, seeing as I couldn't sense any code from those three at all. Loading said. Maybe you just suck, old timer. Error remarked. Shut up, pet. Loading replied. You wanna fight right in O dash. But before Error could talk, he got smacked in the back of the head by 404. Enough. I need to go see this for myself now. Let's go. 404 said as he flew across the multiverse, leaving Loading and Error in his dust. He sure is excited. Loading said. Yeah, it's not, this hasn't been his aspiration for like the last 30 years. Error said as he and Loading then teleported to the Omega timeline, only for 404 to show up there a couple seconds after they arrived. 404 stopped dead in his tracks as he looked around in desperation, his eyes getting wet with tears. Is this real? I'm getting worked up again over a false truth? No. I can't get worked up. I need to remain composed. If anyone saw me like this I could dash. But just as 404 said that, his eyes saw them. Quenya, DeLeos, Frisk, Lucy and all the rest of his friends and family. It's really them guys. 404 shouted as he started running straight towards them. However, Infected wasn't far behind, hiding behind a tree in the distance. King Multiverse and the rest of Alphatale looked over as 404 was running towards them. Who the hell is that guy? Aurora asked. I don't know, everyone here is a special case. DeLeos said as 404 stopped in front of them. He was still covered with shock and sadness. It real is them. God, they haven't changed a bit from when I was young. That's okay though. This is how I see them. In my memories, this image of them is all I see. 404 thought to himself before having DeLeos wave in his face. Can we help you? DeLeos said. Oh, my apologies, you don't recognize me like this. It's me Dash. But before 404 could say anything, he heard Frisk groan. God. How many of these guys are there? This shit is starting to get annoying. Frisk groaned. 404 then looked to see the rest of them all equally annoyed. I dash. 404 was unsure what to say. He had forgotten how heartless these people were, how cruel his world was. Good to see you, William, said a voice behind everyone. Everyone looked behind them, shocked to see Astral sitting down picking up grass. You've changed so much, Astral said as she smiled at 404 with him completely frozen in fear and conflicted feelings filling his mind. 404's face was painted with stress and heartache, a complete contrast to the smile of his mother who knew exactly who he was. She got up and proceeded to walk towards 404, was frozen in fear. What the hell? 404 is afraid? King Multiverse and Error said in shock. You see, when our home was destroyed, the last thing I saw on those cameras before complete annihilation was you there with Jacob, and then the next moment you were gone. Your magical signature no longer was present on the planet anymore. After that, the planet, no, the universe, our universe was destroyed. Astral smiled. I did what I could to save you. 404 screamed. You can't save anyone. Astral shouted back. 404 looked at the ground. It's okay, William, Astral said as her hand touched his head. Know that no one forgive Dash. But just as Astral was going to finish her sentence, Quenya rushed over and smashed her fist into the side of Astral's face, sending her flying hundreds of feet away from them. Quenya, have you lost your mind? Frisk shouted. No one puts their hands on my child. Quenya said as she then looked towards 404, who looked up at her. Even after all these years, you're horrible with talking to people, huh, William? Still that insecure boy who wishes he could just learn to socialize better. Quenya said as she hugged 404. 404 hugged her back, grabbing her tightly and resting his head on her chest. Is that really Will? Frisk thought to himself. God, you guys are a bunch of lunatics. Is fighting all you're good for? King Multiverse said. It's just how we are. I'm sure you're the same way. Hating the world like we do to the point where you want to punch it and everything around it. DeLeos said. Sure. King Multiverse said. But you shouldn't waste your life like that. Delios said, getting King's full attention. We wasted our lives fighting, getting angrier by the day and never learning when the fight was over. I wish I just could go back and relax for a moment. Every second I felt a dark sensation in my soul. However, you're different, little black man. I can feel it deep down inside your soul. Even if you're similar to us, you have the capability to be different and be more. Delios said, putting a hand on King Multiverse's shoulder. King Multiverse looked at him, and then to Aurora and Frisk, who were also looking at him. Okay, that's enough staring. What am I? The comedy club. King Multiverse said, crossing his arms and looking away. Even though he did enjoy those kind words. Further away, Astral would get up with a pissed look on her face. You have some nerves, fish tits. Astral said. I won't let you hurt anyone else. This time I can fight against you all on my own. Quenya said. Oh really? Wanna test that? Astral asked as she then fired her alpha ray only for Quenya to block it with her spear, and then throw it at Astral, who turned into smoke and disappeared. Quenya looked around for any sign of pink smoke only for Astral to reappear in front of her and uppercut her into the air, and then kick her in the chest, nearly breaking her chest piece to her armor. Ack. Grr. I'm not done yet. Quenya said as she bounced off the air and smashed her foot into Astral's face, kicking her back. Quenya then sprinted towards Astral the moment her feet touched the ground only for Astral to sidestep and dodge Quenya's stab. Holy shit. That was insane. I could have sworn she just landed on the ground. How'd she dodge that? Shouted Askari while Core and everyone watched in absolute amazement. Perfect Gaster and the rest of Epic Tail watched from the sidelines. What do we do? Epictorial asked. Nothing, we're out of our league. Perfect Gaster said as he continued to watch Quenya and Astral's fight continue. Quenya turned around only for Astral to sprint forward and smash her fist into Quenya's face, making a loud earth-shattering pop sound, causing mostly everyone to be knocked off their feet. Quenya stumbled over as Astral then slid between her legs as Astral then got behind her and got Quenya into rear neck choke hold, stopping her movement. Arg. Why you Arotiratin B bitch? Quenya said as she struggled to break free. You better clam down, little girl. I'll have you know that I don't fight nearly as good with my clothes on. Astral said as she then kicked Quenya in the back of her knee and pinned her down. I like that armor of yours, though. I reckon you got it from that beautiful mainframe. That's not doing so good for your body, though. It's literally eating away at your code and is killing your body. Here, let me help you. Astral said as she then pulled some of the mainframe code out of Quenya and absorbed it into herself. Quenya. That's IT, mother. 404 said as he began to walk towards her only for a large black portal to open up above them. Everyone looked up as then 10 themselves came falling out of the portal and ended in the center of the Omega timeline. 10. King Multiverse said in fear. Greetings. 10 said they then shot a bright light from their eyes and blinded everyone and everything in the multiverse. Extra scene. The pieces of bones still on the ground, being hit by the wind as Supremes and Dust Plus S bodies remained in the aftermath of everything. Suddenly, a white skeleton walked in with smoke coming from his mouth. He then clicked his fingers as Dust Plus and Supreme were rebuilt and revived once again. Gasp. Gasped Supreme. I am alive. I'm alive. We're alive. Shouted Supreme as he looked at Dust Plus. Yeah, but how? Questioned Dust Plus. Both of the skeletons looked in front of them to notice the white skeleton. Hello, boys. Said the white skeleton. Oh, it's you. Said Dust Plus. You know him? Asked Supreme. Yes, he does. You can consider me an ally. I brought you back. You should be thanking me for that, you know? Said the white skeleton while also looking at Dust Plus. Thanks, I guess. Muffled Dust Plus. He means we thank you very much, Browski. Is there anything we can do in return? Supreme exclaimed, glad to be alive again. Yeah, just do as I say. That's more than enough for now. Said the white skeleton as both Supreme and Dust Plus stood up. Say, what do you want anyway, and what's your name? Asked Supreme. For the what I want. Nothing that interests your knowledge. As for my name, you can just call me Vape. Said the white skeleton.